Welcome to Legacy Lounge, the podcast where you'll discover how to lead with purpose and build a legacy that matters. So if you're ready to step into your full potential, show up authentically for yourself and others, and create a lasting impact on the world, you're in the right place. Let's begin. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Legacy Lounge. I'm Brin'na, and today I'm going to share with you an incredible follow-up to a coaching story that I need you to hear. So last week, I shared how my client was blindsided by her boss. She was questioning a promotional path, and she was to the point of just being in tears, and she was questioning everything. But this week, her team surprised her with a trophy celebrating her leadership. What happened between the tears and the triumph, that is what we are unpacking today. You know, in times when the world feels really heavy, pretty much like right now and every day so far in 2026, but when leadership feels so complicated, stories like this one remind me why this work matters and how it works. Because authentic leadership, the kind that actually creates psychological safety, that develops people, and that builds trust, that right there is what changes lives. Not just in the boardrooms, but in real moments when people go home and they feel seen. That's the leadership we need more of. Always we need more of it, but especially right now. If you want to see what authentic leadership looks like in action, this episode is for you. So 2 weeks ago, my client called me in tears. Her boss was randomly reaching out and questioning whether she thought she was getting promoted or not. After months and months of positive conversations affirming this promotion was lined up every single time, she felt absolutely blindsided by this new question and approach of her growth trajectory from her boss. So here's what my client did that most people wouldn't have. Instead of retreating or getting defensive, she chose courage in that moment. She reached out to her boss and requested an in-person conversation, and using a framework from one of the discussions we had, it's talking about in reference to Brene Brown's above the line. And it goes about this concept of above the line versus below the line. And she explains how his communication had sent her into that fear mode. She helped him understand how to approach difficult conversations differently. And what was incredible is the result. Her boss admitted that he should have been more transparent and committed to better communication going forward, because this wasn't the first time that this came up as a concern. But here's where the real magic happened. My client had been planning a team offsite for months, 2 days of jam-packed strategic planning and team building with her 12-person team, who she had never met in person before. But also, her boss would be attending this meeting as an observer. And we got into a conversation around how this is her moment to show what director-level leadership looks like live and in action. In her opening presentation, it was masterful. She used theme songs like Strong Foundations. She connected both directly and indirectly to the business challenges through the engagement activities built throughout the sessions. She talked about how they had proven that they could handle both rapid growth and adapt when things went wrong based off the team's performance throughout the back half of 2025. She then shared a pretty powerful metaphor that was about core strength. And she tied this to how when they lost a team member months prior, it tore a muscle in their core. And now they needed to rebuild and strengthen that muscle. The room was completely engaged, but the real leadership moment came during the team building exercise. She facilitated the Marshmallow Challenge, which if you haven't heard of this, it is worth a Google. But teams build the tallest tower using spaghetti and tape with a marshmallow on top. Most teams fail because they spend way too much time in planning too much and they don't just test it early enough and get to work. But when she debriefed the activity, something even more cool emerged. Both teams said that they didn't have one strong leader taking charge. Instead, they said, we all just really trusted each other. So anytime somebody had input, we just rolled with it. And that's when she had a light bulb moment. Sarah knew that my client knew that she had built an extraordinary team, and this was something special, but it was built from the inside out. This wasn't just a team. This was now establishing psychologically a safe environment for every single player on the team. One where people felt so empowered to contribute without fear of being shut down. And this is why this matters so much. Psychological safety isn't about being nice. It is about creating an environment where people feel safe enough to take risks, to share ideas, and to challenge the status quo without fear of punishment or embarrassment. That is what separates magnetic teams from managed teams. My client didn't just build psychological safety in an offsite. She actually had been building it for months throughout her daily discipline and her leadership. The offsite just made it visible for everyone to understand what was capable when this is established in a well-performing team. At dinner, her team surprised her with a trophy, and it had the title on it, Outstanding Leader. And they all wrote cards, and every single person had a handwritten, heartfelt note about her leadership and the difference that she was making in their life. Even her newest team member was less than a week on the job, wrote about never being a part of something like this and was excited for the future. Here's what I want to make sure we understand, is that the recognition from her team didn't create the leadership that my client comes with. It only revealed it. She had been building trust and creating psychological safety while developing these people and delivering the results long before the actual meeting it surfaced. The offsite gave everyone permission to understand how powerful they are as a team and as a unit collectively. Here's where the ripple effect comes in. It's already showing up in the numbers. There are multiple members of her team volunteering for additional responsibilities to get projects ahead and or continue to scale at the rate that they are. Her assistant manager asked to take on a clinical team, growth that she was hesitant about even mentioning before. And a senior team member changed his quarterly goals from personal priorities to company priorities. Her boss had sent her a message that said this is how well-run offsites change the way that people think. This is what authentic leadership creates. It's not out of compliance, but it's out of commitment. It's not retention tactics. It's actually genuine engagement. And it's not people working for you, but it's people growing because of you. So think back to that dinner table test. When my client's team went home after the offsite, what do you think they were saying? I guarantee you it wasn't that my boss made me go to an offsite, but something rather like, I've never been part of something like this before. I feel valued. That was so much fun. I'm excited to take the lead on something new. That right there, that's the difference between compliance and commitment. Now, the difference in managing and leading often comes down to this. Do people follow you because they have to or because they want to? My client's transformation from going from tears to triumph reminds me why I do this work. Sometimes the breakthrough happens right after the breakdown. And if you're in a difficult leadership moment right now, I'm here for you. And here's what I want you to take from this entire story. First, you always need to choose courage over comfort. My client could have chose to completely avoid a follow-up conversation with her boss, but instead she took charge of it and used it as a teaching moment, both for her and the relationship dynamic with her boss. Second, creating psychological safety instead of demanding compliance is what allowed this team's offsite to feel safe enough doing silly things and sharing freely and openly while the big boss was in the same room. And third, If you focus on developing people instead of just directing them, the ripple effect will show that people choose to step up every single time, not just when they're being told to. So what would happen if you created more psychological safety during your next team interaction? What if instead of just telling people what to do, you made it an open dialogue conversation where you created this space for them to choose their own commitments, knowing that the outcome and the goal is the same? Magnetic teams aren't built through retention tactics. They are built through authentic leadership. And that is what makes people want to stay and grow. My client story proves that the breakdown often comes right before the breakthrough. So if any part of this story resonates with you, I would love to hear about it. You can share this with somebody that comes to mind. And if you're in a difficult leadership situation right now, don't give up. Your breakthrough might be just around the corner. If you're ready to build the kind of team that celebrates your leadership instead of just tolerating it, come to legacyfulfilled.com. I'll be waiting. Let's talk about creating more magnetic teams because the world needs it now more than ever. I'm Brin'na, and I'll see you next week. That's it for this episode of Legacy Lounge, a podcast dedicated to empowering you to lead with purpose. Remember, leadership begins with you. When you're connected to your values, strengths, and authentic self, you show up powerfully for your team, businesses, and everyone you lead. To authentically lead others, you must first lead yourself. I challenge you to consider, how are you investing in your personal growth to create a legacy that you envision? Thank you for joining me in the Legacy Lounge. If this episode sparked any thoughts or inspired action, I'd love to hear from you. I'm your host, Brin'na Rollins-Williams. Connect with me on LinkedIn or other socials, and let's continue the conversation. Remember, your legacy is built one intentional step at a time.